Welcome back to the IE427 garage, everybody. Today we're going to be working on the Texas car, the Mk4 prototype, and we're going to be working on the front passenger footbox. I need to get that footbox in place and mocked up so we can start working on our fuel lines. All right, I think what we're going to do today is we are going to start working on the footbox on the passenger side, getting the panels fit and drilled and kind of clecoed in place so that we can go ahead and get our fuel lines run. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to actually necessitate keeping this panel in place for the time being, because I'd like to get the lower firewall, which is that piece that goes right here and drops down in between the panel right here that makes the tunnel and this footbox side. So I want to get those kind of in place and drilled, and then what I'll end up doing is I'll probably get the fuel lines to over here where I need them, and then I'll probably take everything back apart, because I want to take this panel off and the panel on the driver's side, and I want to get both of those ready, meaning cleaned up, wiped down with acetone, and then I actually want to paint the panel from the inside of the tunnel from this square tube down, so that anything from inside the engine compartment looking into the tunnel will appear that it's all painted the same color or powder coated the same color. I said in an earlier video, I don't expect that a lot of road debris is going to be knocked up into the trans tunnel. And so I'm not too worried about just this portion of it being painted. I'm far more concerned about the bottom of the panel here and powder coating that and having rocks and debris bouncing up on that. It's much easier to keep the bare aluminum clean than it is the powder coated finish, because once the powder coat starts getting hammered with rocks and stuff, you're going to have a hard time keeping that panel looking nice. Now, granted, it's on the bottom of the car and nobody's going to be really sticking their head underneath the car at car shows or anything, but this is just my personal preference. It helps to keep some of the cost down on the panels. These are rather large panels, and most powder coaters are going to charge you for the material used. And so it's been my experience in areas that you're not going to see it, it just doesn't make sense to powder coat the panels. The wheel wells and stuff like that, where you're going to see them, you know, around the tires and wheels, that's a different story. Now, Slytherin over here, none of the panels are powder coated on Slytherin. What I do on my own car, you know, is kind of up to me. But, you know, when an owner has decided they're going to powder coat parts, I like to make sure that there's some uniformity throughout the car. But at the same time, we don't want to needlessly spend money that we don't have to. So in order to economize on this, we're keeping those panels that we don't need to powder coat bare aluminum, and they're in most cases going to get covered up or not seen. So that's what we're going to do on these panels, and then we'll see how far we go. I might even bring down some more of the driver's side aluminum and get some of that mocked into place. I'm kind of stuck. I've still got the engine in here. I've still got the 25th anniversary car here. So I hate to quit harping on this, but I just don't have the room in the shop right now. So I'm just kind of moving around the car, trying to get things done, so that as the engine comes out and the floodgates open and I've got just a bunch more stuff to do, some of this little stuff will have been done already and I'll have to go back to it. So hang on, and I'm going to get some of this stuff brought down from upstairs. We'll start pre-fitting all this stuff. All right, I don't know if I've ever shown how I make these. I think I've told all you guys how to make these, or how I make these in the past, but I don't think I've ever showed you. And what I'm talking about is these, let me get around the lift here, these fuel line clips that I make. So basically what it is, it's a 3/4 inch cushion clip that I put in the press. In this case, I'm using the Arbor press, but you can do these in a vise too. And then I make two distinct bumps in them, or places, slots, that'll hold the 3/8 fuel line. So I use cut off pieces of 3/8 fuel line, right? And I stick them, and I'll show you the whole process when I do it. But basically, that's what is making this piece. So these will slide in there, and then I use a bolt in the center, and I put them in the press, arbor press. But you can do a hydraulic press like that. It just takes a little bit more finesse because you're having to deal with multiple things at the same time. Or you can use a vise. So I press those out, and then we get what I have complete over here, which is the 2 line clips. Now I'm going to swap this one out because although it's the same size, it's a different hole configuration than the other 3 that I've already done. So I'm going to grab one that's the exact same as the other 3 that I've done. I'm going to show you guys how to make one of these. Alright, so first what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a 1024 screw, machine screw, and a nut, and I'm going to screw the clamp together. That way when we're done, the holes will line up and we're not going to have any problems getting our pop rivet through there. So just snug, so it's not going to go anywhere. Then I'm going to put it in the press. I'm going to put the 2 pieces of line inside there, the scrap pieces. And I'm going to bring the press down, and I'm just going to kind of start to flatten it out, just so there's a spot in there for the bolt. And you can use another piece of cut line. I just found that the solid bolt makes a little bit easier time when you press on it. It's less likely to distort. The lines inside there are kind of cushioned by the rubber of the cushion clamp, and so they're less likely to compress. But on this part that you're actually pressing down with the press, I feel it's better to have the bolt in there than just a piece of line. And so you're going to want to make sure that you've got your lines kind of spread apart, and just gently start to push down, and then you're going to have to give it a little bit more force to get it to the final shape that you want. Now you're going to see as I pressed it down, that bolt that I put through there is at an angle. It's not a big deal. What you're going to do is put this whole thing back in the press. If you're doing this a vise, you can just leave it in the vise while you do this part. You can get a flat blade screwdriver and pull it out a little bit from where it was. Then once you can get a pair of pliers on it, just go ahead and bend that flat while you hold pressure down on the handle of the press so it doesn't go anywhere. Again, if you've got this in a vise and you're holding it already secure in the vise, you're not going to have to hold down on the arm of the press. But that's it. It's done. So you can see that the 2 lines are separated but held together, so they're not going to move. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take that bolt out, and now I have 4 of these. I only put 4 line clips on the side of the 4-inch round tube as I'm running those fuel lines down the side. So I'll have plenty of these, and if I screw one up, it's not a big deal. I can make another one. But if you're looking for a place to buy these line clamps, these cushion clamps, go to Zorro.com. And this is not a paid endorsement. This is just where I found that I can get the same type that Factory 5 supplies with the kit. Now, Factory 5 only supplies you 5/8 cushion clamps and 1/4-inch cushion clamps because they do your fuel lines a little bit different. The fuel lines, they have you putting in like 1/4-inch clamps, which will stretch, but I just don't like using them. And then the 5/8, if you want them to fit the 3/8 line, you actually have to line the inside of them with a piece of hose. And I'll show you how to do that later. But these are just for the ones that run down the 4-inch round tube. And then they get secured with a single 3/16 pop rivet. So there you go. All right, the Everly Brothers. Wake up, little Susie. This is where I got today. I actually got quite a bit done. I got those brake line, fuel line clips all made, like I showed you. But then I started on the fuel lines. So I've got the fuel lines in the car. Tomorrow I'm probably going to work on getting the fittings on the end. I'm not rushing things. I want to make sure that the lines fit real well. And since I had the ability to take the footbox off on this one, they went in really nice. So back here, I've got the two fuel lines. You can see they're just a little bit different height, and that's on purpose. That way they won't crash together when I strap them. They're actually strapped together right now, but this will keep them at a nice distance from one another so that they're not going to have any issues. And then the clip that I've got on there now is just to space them apart. So you can see down here at the bottom, this is going to be the supply is offset out beyond where the return line is, and that's just so that they flow nice from the back of the chassis here into the 4-inch tube here, and then go into the first cushion clip right there. So let me reposition here, and I'll get you in on the bottom so you can see how the lines ended up on there. All right, so you can see right past the suspension mounts for the lower control arms, I've got another cushion clip there. And then coming down, I've got one more cushion clip in the middle, and then I've got a cushion clip right here before they make the turn to go up. And I've got the lines just past where the footbox opens up to let the lines go through there. So it actually came out really nice. The tape was just so that I could write on the chassis and know exactly where I needed to make those turns, those 90-degree bends going up. Now I'll take you around to the other side of the car because that's going to be the best spot to view the lines and actually see them coming up the footbox. I did them a little bit different on this one because we don't have as much stuff as we did on the 25th anniversary car on this car. So, like I said, I did them a little bit different to get them closer to the firewall on this one. Okay, so you can see them right here. I tried to keep the Clecos out of the way so you can see them coming up. And again, they're at two different heights, just so that the connectors, the fittings we're going to put on the end of those, don't collide into one another. They'll be spaced enough that they'll have enough room so that they won't be right on top of one another, and that's on purpose. So I've got them up here, and then they're going to actually come up a little bit more, and then they're going to 90 onto the firewall, and they'll probably go right about there on the firewall. And then that's where our fuel pressure regulator is going to end up. And out of our fuel pressure regulator, it'll feed into the engine and into the fuel rail. So let me take you over to the other side of the car, and you can actually see where these ended up on the actual side of the footbox. All right, so there you go. You can see where the lines just come up above the footbox. I've got another cushion clip just holding them together. It's not actually fastened to the footbox yet. It will be once the footbox goes in for good. But I'm going to pull that footbox all apart again tomorrow so that I can get the ends, the fittings put on the end of the tubes for the fuel lines, and then that'll make it all nice and, done pretty much until we get our soft lines made. All right, so I think that's going to do it for today. I'm going to get back on this tomorrow where I'll start pulling the footbox apart and I'll start working on those fittings. And then once those fittings are done, the lines will go in for good. And then we'll work the footboxes around them as we work to get the footboxes in for the final time. That'll happen once the engine comes out because it's going to be a lot easier to get the engine out of the car with the footboxes out of the way. So let's pray for a break in weather so we can get some cars moved around here and I can get that engine and transmission out of the Texas car. See you tomorrow. All right, everybody, it's late. But I didn't want to stop for the day until I got the fuel lines in place and all of the fittings on the end of the hard lines. So as you remember, I had to pull the footbox out in order to get the fuel lines in since we've got the motor in the way. And normally if the motor was out, I'd have much more room to work in there. But, we're working around what we've got, and this is kind of the way it is. So as you can see right up here, I've got both of our what are we calling these? The tube nuts and the tube sleeves. And I've got the end of the line flared, and then I've got our AN6 unions on the end of there. And so we'll transition to soft lines here, some braided steel, stainless steel lines, and those will go over to our fuel pressure regulator, which is going to be mounted on the firewall somewhere over there. So you can see underneath I've got them all strapped, or can you see that? Let's see if I can get you in there. So there's one of our straps, and you can see that I've got it strapped all the way down to the back of the car. And then I went ahead in the back and I got that all strapped right here as well. And so up here you can see I've got the two lines separated, and there's enough room in there to get these lines basically sent back towards both our fuel filter and then our return, which is going to go to the tank back here. That's that inside line right there. So the fuel lines are all done now, or as far as we can take them for right now. And I've already started working on the rear brakes. You may have seen some of that back there. So obviously the next thing you're going to be seeing in the next video is working on brake lines. I always start at the back of the car and work my way forward. I've just found that that works easier for me rather than starting at the actual pedal box and working towards the back. But I'll get into that when I start doing the brake lines in the next video. So if you guys are enjoying the content here, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that good stuff. Comment if you'd like, and we'll see you guys all next time. Have a great day.